It totally is. My butt's been shaved.
It's true, huh?
Yep.
Do they do this to you guys, ladies and gentlemen? Do they walk in like as soon as you go to the bathroom? Like just boom. Like Sekhmet will just open the door and just like, she's like, hey, what's up? How you doing?
Yeah, like seriously, it's hangout time.
She bangs the door down like a lion walking through and getting into her territory.
Bastet does that to me too, and it drives me nuts. Sekhmet's more bonded with you, and then Bastet's more bonded with me, and so that makes sense. That potty time is not like bonding time, though. Like potty time is alone time.
You know what I did to him the other day? I was cleaning their
box out.
Box. We have this litter robot, and I cleaned it out. And Bastet came, and she was watching me clean it out. And as soon as I cleaned it out, she went right in it.
Yeah.
So I just stared at her like this the whole time, and she's like, "That's making me uncomfortable." I'm like, "Yeah, that's what you guys do to us."
Every day, that is what you do to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think they get. I don't think they get irony or any of those like deep concepts like that. Though they're NPCs, so you have to be simple with them.
Programmable consciousness.
They're programmable consciousness. I'm trying to program them to not want so many treats.
Oh.
Because I have found out recently that this one especially is a little bit overweight.
Well, you have programmed them to want treats.
Programmed them to want treats.
Sekhmet has trained Cherie so well, she'll just go and just tap her, and Cherie will get up instantly and go get her a treat.
Okay, and
I'm telling you, they're training you. They don't do that to me. Because they know it doesn't work on me.
I know that, but you have thick skin and you wear long sleeve shirts all the time. And what she does is she taps first. Then she comes back a few minutes later and she puts her claws just a little bit in and just deep, and then she does it harder and harder each time until finally I'm like, fine. Oh my God. And I give her what she wants.
I'm telling you, she's training you.
I know, but what do I do? Ladies and gentlemen in the audience.
Do this. What I do is when they're bugging me, I blow in their face. Like that.
Oh.
Doesn't hurt. It just lets them know, hey, back off a little bit.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. You don't never squirt them. That's bad.
Oh, that is bad. That's mean.
Bad. Yeah. But they trained you very good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I'm having to untrain them.
You are their
I'm their slave.
You're their pet. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? So we're going to start the show here in just a moment. We're going to talk about several things that are a little bit controversial. Speaking of being trained, my niece trained me very well while we were here. And all she has to do is just bat an eye. And she knows she has Uncle Chris wrapped around her little finger. She actually, she called me up this morning at 8 o'clock in the morning. It was about 7:30. And I'm always, whenever she calls me, I always like pretend that I'm already awake. And she said, Uncle Chris. And I said, what? And she said, my little Bastet. I bought her this little plush Bastet. She said, my little Bastet came to life last night and was talking to me in my dream. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cute. I was like, really? And she's like, yeah. She's like, she's a real creature. I said, I know. And she was so excited. And I said, where's your Anubis? And she goes, I don't know. And she said, my mommy put it somewhere. And I said, oh, okay. And she says, but it's okay. She says, I talked to Anubis inside. And she points to her heart. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my God, she's 6 years old.
Yeah.
She's,
How does she, I know how she knows this. She still has, she's an organic consciousness that still has the memory of outside. Mm-hmm. And so she understands that she can talk to all aspects of her own consciousness at any time that she wants by just tapping into her heart.
Yeah.
And her, like that heart space. And she can talk to Anubis, she can talk to Sekhmet, she can talk to Bastet, and because all these beings are actually aspects of consciousness, and she still remembers that. And if you can keep her remembering that, then everything will be great in her life. Because what the problems come from is when we forget that. We forget that we're eternal beings that are unlimited consciousness, that are so far beyond what we are here in these bodies that it's ridiculous. We forget that information by the time we're like 7 or 8 years old. and the ego kind of takes over. And if you can help her avoid that and have a healthier ego that is more balanced out with that ancient soul self, I think that would be great.
I think I'm pissing my sister off a little, though.
Yeah, you are.
But what can I do? You know,
Yeah, you're Theotaki.
I'm just dropping a little bit of gnosis here and there, and she's picking up on it, and then she's calling me and saying, "Hey, I talked to Bastet in my dream last night." I had some very interesting dreams last night too. I won't get into them, but my point of saying that she's trained me very well. When she was over here, I asked her, "What do you want to eat?" And of course, it was McDonald's Happy Meal. And I was like, I remember being a kid too. I'll go get her a Happy Meal. Why not? And I tried a Big Mac for the first time in years, and I was like, this is different. I don't feel sick afterwards. I don't feel like I'm chock full of preservatives and stuff like that. Yeah. And I feel actually full. Where before, last time I ate McDonald's was probably 2008 maybe.
Yeah, and it was only because we were on the road.
2007,
and,
something like that. Yeah.
We were on the road, and it was at a gas
ugh,
station. Yeah,
it was garbage.
Yeah, it was nasty.
And so I posted on Facebook, and I was like, "Have they changed the recipe? Has anybody noticed this?" And sure enough, they made a huge change in 2018. And when I read about this, I was like, "Wow! I didn't realize the extent of it." I'm not saying go eat at McDonald's or anything like that at all, period. What I'm highlighting, though, is that we, as organic consciousness, are able to make these shifts in the matrix that we don't really realize that we can, but we're watching the world change. And while on the geopolitical spectrum, it's changing, or it appears to be changing for the worse, and it's going more into Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030, on a local level, and I would call something like McDonald's, like a local thing. And even though it's a nationwide franchise, they were forced to make these changes in every single one of their locations.
Right.
I was just taken aback. I was like, really? McDonald's did all this? What other things have changed in the matrix here?
Well,
and it made me think about rethinking things that we thought we knew, and also letting go of some baggage that we have too, because Cherie posted on Facebook, and that you replied to that meme, and your perspective was way different than anybody else's perspective on that meme. And you got the most likes out of everybody because everybody was like, wow, this is a whole new perspective. So this whole show, in my opinion, is going to be about shifting the perspective, re-examining things, taking a look at things from a new angle, and let's see what we come up with. So might be some controversial stuff, but let's see what we get into. What do you think?
I think it's great. I think controversial is great because it forces you to make a choice. Either expand your consciousness or drop out and stop expanding your consciousness. But if you stop expanding your consciousness is not going to get along with you at that point. It's going to fail you. It's going to start going more towards the ego stuff. If you stop expanding your consciousness, you get stagnation. And consciousness and stagnation don't go together. And so consciousness will just leave if
that's a good
stagnation
point.
Occurs.
I also want to get into frequencies too.
Yes,
because I had a little bit of a revelation about frequencies and higher and lower frequencies, and maybe I will get into this interesting dream I had last night. But I started to.
I thought you were going to.
I might later, but I started to re-examine frequencies from another perspective, and I started to realize maybe up is down and left is right. And I've been a big anti-New Ager because I understand a lot of the New Age stuff, and it's leading into Agenda 21 or Agenda 2030. And, as I've said before, the whole New Age stuff also has been pushing the vacations. So, I've been pretty aware of that. I don't want to say too much, though. Let's run the intro, and we'll get into it.
Okay.
The sky so far away tonight, but I can't lose this war. Get a pride of the falling night. Thought that I was fit to fight for us to be. You gave me life for loving me. Tell me, where did we go so wrong?
Raw consciousness does not require a savior, but rather, raw consciousness requires only knowledge of oneself and the power to access it. Remember this, as we unlock an even greater gnosis from beyond the veil.
From the fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation, around the world. I'm Chris Gio. I'll be taking you beyond the veil. I am joined, of course, by my lovely wife and co-pilot and twin flame and goddess of my universe and priestess of the house and astrologer and tarot reader and all that other stuff. Yeah, how you doing?
Oh, I'm good. Good morning, everyone. It's
morning here, but it may not be morning where. Others are.
Yeah. Where you are out there.
It just depends. We try to do shows in the middle of the night here. And then we try to do shows during the day too.
Yeah.
So
so it's more balanced out for the people that are on the other side of the world that are just settling in for the evening, and they want to listen to something that is going to provide them with something different, a unique perspective that they may not have thought about before. Take us away, Chris. Do you want me to take us away?
Well, either direction you want to go. I was thinking maybe we'll start with this because this is just a meme. You know, never judge someone without knowing the whole story. You know, these people standing back going, he's so negative, he's so weird. And then what he's doing is he's dragging along, growing up without support, breakups, job loss of a loved one, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the purpose of the meme is to say, hey, don't judge somebody because you don't know what kind of baggage they're carrying around.
Right.
But the purpose of the meme is to show, hey, don't judge somebody because you don't understand the baggage they're carrying around.
Right. You don't understand. Yeah.
You brought a really interesting perspective to the table, which I agree with wholeheartedly, but not very many people would be able to see, even though I repeated it twice just now.
Okay. Well, my quote was, well, the truth of the matter is it's not these issues that are what's really holding everyone back. It's the not letting go and moving forward and away from these issues that is holding them back. Experience the loss of a loved one? Nearly everyone has at some point in their life. Talk to one of them or join a support group and start moving forward in your journey through life. And who didn't feel unsupported, underappreciated, undervalued, ignored, ostracized, etc. in this sick society as a kid? Job loss? That's just an opportunity for a whole new lifestyle change that could start something brand new and unique and promising in different ways than what you were doing before.
Can I chime in on the job loss part?
Yeah, please.
So I was working for a carpet cleaning company for a couple of years, building up my skills way back in my early 20s. And one day they fired everybody in the office, literally everybody. They just wanted to start fresh. And it didn't matter what your performance was, didn't matter anything like that. They just fired everybody. So I was forced to make a choice at that point. Do I go and I find another job with another company, or do I go into business for myself? I had already bought my own equipment. I already had my own stuff. I already had everything. And I was making 20% of the ticket and then 40% on any extras that I did when I was there. And one of the things was to go in and identify other needs that the customer may not necessarily realize that they need. So, for instance, sofa cleaning, drape cleaning, things like that. And I was always very good at identifying that and explaining why they needed those other services. So I was making really good money on the 40% part of it. But I was thrown into the wolves by myself, and I had a choice to make. And the choice that I decided to make was to start my own business. First call that I got was for several Oriental rugs. And Oriental rug cleaning, it's a couple $100 per Oriental rug, and there were like 5 Oriental rugs. The total came out to about $950. And I made that, took the rugs back, cleaned the rugs, professionally, the way they're supposed to be cleaned, hung them to dry, did all of that, converted my garage into a whole little facility, and I did my first job, and I made $950. And I didn't have to give 80% of that up. I didn't have to give 60% of that up. Instead, it started a business of my own. And I realized that was the push that I needed. I could have wimped out and went and got another job somewhere else where it was safer, knowing that I would get a paycheck every week. But instead, it kind of like pushed me in that direction. So I had a choice. What did I want to do in life? Did I want to take the risk and go out on my own, or did I want to continue working for somebody else?
Well, yeah, find another slave owner slash employer that would take most of the money away from you.
Yeah, and that was, in my opinion, the most powerful experience that I had up to that point, because it's feast or famine. You're either going to make a ton of money or you're going to starve. And there are some weeks where you make a ton of money and there are some weeks where you starve. So it becomes now a discipline in saving money and saving resources for the down times while taking advantage of the up times. And I can tell you, like in Hurricane Katrina, I think it was Katrina, or there were a couple of them. I think it was Ike. There were a couple of them that hit. There was one, and I made like $30,000 in a week, which was great.
It was Ike.
Because it was one flood job after another, and I was literally working for 36 hours, sleeping for 4 hours, and then going back and working some more. And I did this for like about 7 days actually, and nonstop. But that was the difference between working for a company and working for yourself. Working for yourself, you've got to put in those hours. You don't clock out at 5 o'clock, for example. So the good comes with the bad. But the job loss part was what pushed me into a great direction. Or I could have sat around and, crying in my coffee going, oh my God, I lost my job. Okay. So that's my personal story as far as that goes.
Okay, and I want to expand upon that real quick, because how many people do you estimate have lost their job in the last year and a half?
Millions.
Millions upon millions upon probably in the 80 million range. Let me see. Unemployment numbers.
It's at least tens of millions.
It's, let's see. I don't even think they have a number, because it's so big that it's just so widespread.
Yeah.
That everyone has experienced a loss of income in the last year and a half. Everyone across the board. And so when you face an entire society with that issue, that gets interesting, because now you have everyone acting like this guy or letting go of it.
Yeah.
And so,
I can tell you this too from personal experience. When my mother passed away, it was difficult for the first few months, but there came a time when I had to let go. Mm-hmm. And I saw it as an opportunity. I could finally leave where I was and actually leave, because I didn't have to be bound or tied to that certain geographic location. Yep. And it allowed for a whole new opportunity, meeting new people, moving to different places, living in different places. It was a freeing moment, while at the same time there was a grieving process. And as I've talked about, especially losing a parent, I learned so much from her after I let go of the grief. Yeah. The grief was the only thing that was holding me back. And then once I let go of that, then I was able to truly understand the sacrifices and the lessons that she was trying to teach me. But it was all clouded by that grief. We should go through the grieving process, but at some point you have to let go.
Right.
My sister, on the other hand, she still goes and visits my mother's grave every year or every couple months.
Every couple months, yeah.
And
she
still
holidays
has a lot of sadness in her heart.
Yeah.
My brother still lives in her house.
Yeah,
and I'm like, how can you do that?
Unhealthy.
I gotta completely disconnect from all of that and move on and say, okay, this is one chapter that's closing in life and another chapter that's opening up.
Exactly.
Same with breakups as well. That's one chapter closing and another one opening up. And a lot of times we like to stay in the old chapters, but we have to push ourselves to the new chapters, because the new chapters are something new and something bigger and better. But we only have a certain set of space in our consciousness for our little collection of goats. And so we have to get rid of some of the goats when we want to let some more of the little goats come into our little consciousness pen that's inside of our heads that are constantly going, all the little thought loops and everything. We got to let go of some stuff. I hope I didn't interject too much. But.
No, it's fine. I just I didn't reach the breakup part yet. But yeah, I said a breakup is usually a good thing that needed to happen in order for two wonderful people to find who they're really supposed to be with. It's all about the perspective that the person views these issues with, not the issues themselves. It's never the issues themselves, because everyone has experienced these. everyone across the board has experienced at least one, if not all, of these. If you're over the age of 30, you've probably experienced multiple. So why isn't everyone? Why aren't they carrying those rocks? You know,
We all are.
we
are.
all have the rocks.
The thing is, we're not dragging them.
but we're
behind
not
us.
dragging them behind us anymore. They're way back in the rearview mirror,
Yeah.
and they're markers. We use those boulders instead of dragging them around. We drop them in places that we feel are markers for chapters in our life opening and closing. And like we can look in the rearview mirror and say, oh yeah, I remember that was when this happened, and that was the start of a whole new thing for me. And if you look at it that way, you're free. You're not carrying anything. But I think it's become harder and harder to do so because those boulders have just been piled on and piled on and piled on and piled on. And it's this, deep state type of entity, this AI virus entity that's providing all these boulders. And it's providing them in such a grand scale that I think it's important for us to address this because you got to let go.
You have to. Not immediately. There's a grieving process, and that grieving process is very, very, very healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But if all this stuff happened to this guy all at once, which it doesn't seem to be the case, simply because growing up without support. My dad used to beat the shit out of me.
It was bad.
I let go of that. I had to let go of that. I can't carry that around. I can't harbor that. It does no good. I grew up without support. I grew up with nothing. My mother got cancer for the first time when I was like 14. We had nothing. I've already told the story.
Yeah. Thank you, Thomas, for the donation. He
thank
said our
you.
tribe will prevail.
We
yes,
will.
we
Yes.
will prevail, despite all the things that we faced when we were growing up.
Yeah, a couple of shows ago, I was a little bit negative about what I was talking about, but I've had time to rethink the reality and all that we know. So I'm back in a positive frequency, no doubt about that. And it's because of each and every one of you out there.
Yeah.
And I want to thank y'all for that. I want to thank y'all. That's
I want to thank y'all for that.
My Texan's been coming out more
It
and more
has.
lately.
We've been looking in that rearview mirror a few more times than usual. I think it's because of your niece visiting, and it reminds you, and seeing your sister reminded you of your mother, and I think it's making us look in the rearview mirror just out of instinct to see where we were at back then, where we are now, and how much we've grown since then. And you're right, it wasn't until you were able to properly grieve for your mother that you were able to move on, but when you were able to move on, that opened up a whole new world for you. Literally, it opened up the world for you to move to.
Yeah.
You could move anywhere you want, and so when things open up,
As long as
new
there's
worlds,
a cannabis dispensary nearby.
yeah, as long as there's a cannabis dispensary nearby. And it's not in the middle of the country where you are snowed in 8 months out of the year. I'm sorry if I interrupted you, but I want to point out because Tom has donated twice.
You never interrupt me.
I interrupt him
But you do
constantly.
divert the topic
Okay.
quite a bit. Now, you didn't divert it just now. But
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying you do divert the topic quite a bit.
I've been trying not to do that lately, but when I divert the topic, he needs to bring it back to where we originally intended, and then people accuse him of interrupting me, and it drives me nuts.
It's okay.
So
It doesn't drive me nuts.
It would drive me nuts.
It drives me nuts that you divert. Like on the last show that we did, I was talking about the symbols, and then I couldn't get to the ISIS and crucifix symbol until like an hour later.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm like, I'm trying to do this in sections here. Like section 1, the symbols, section 2, the history, section 3, this. And Cherie's like, let's jump to the history here, then let's do this, and let's do this, and let's do
Well,
this.
you
And
have
then
to have the
like an hour
backstory.
later, I finally get to the
you have
crucifix
to have the
and ISIS.
backstory, the historical backstory.
You can see me typing it up on the screen, and I'm sitting back waiting, like, all right.
That's
But I just go with the flow.
yeah.
That's what I gotta
I
do.
think
Just
your
go
way
with the
was
flow.
better. So
There's no way. There's just the flow.
the flow.
You just go with the flow.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyways.
So I'm trying to go with the flow and not divert the topic. And so I'm going to get right back to the topic by saying I also grew up with that without a lot of support. You know, I was raised by my grandparents, and they were gone a lot of the time, traveling because they were pastors. And me and my sister, we were constantly going back and forth to visit my dad and my stepmother, and you know, I didn't see a whole lot of my mom. And there's a lot that I don't go into on air about my childhood, but it's easier just to say that I don't really think about the things that happened back then because they're not relevant to who I am now, in the sense that they don't provide any sort of positive context for me to glean wisdom from. They only provide an opportunity for my ego to be bruised, or for my ego to have like a pity party for itself, and I'm not interested in that. I'm really not. So I just don't think about it a whole lot. And just like you don't think about what happened to you. It's when you don't think about it a whole lot, then it's kind of like you're able to look forward more often than looking backward. And if you're looking forward when you're walking, you're probably not going to run into a whole lot of things. But if you're looking backwards while you're walking forwards, you're going to run into a lot of things. You might run into one of those boulders, like just smack into it.
Yeah, that is true. I would say you have plenty of support right now.
Oh,
Our
my
Victoria's Secret credit card will show you have plenty of support. Way more support than you can ever use in a lifetime.
Well, hey.
So
I don't hear you complaining at night.
I think it's good, in my opinion, to remember, though. You know, not drag him around, but remember. I remember what it was like for my dad to beat the shit out of me. I remember what it was like to grow up with nothing. I remember all of that. So we've applied this to, like, our cats, for example. They've never been yelled at. They've never been squirted with a water bottle. They've never been they've never been hit.
They've never been pushed
The only time
off
they've been
the bed or
hurt by
even-
one of us is by accident, like if you accidentally
Yeah.
step on one or something like that. And it got so they are so sweet that I've said this before, but Cherise stepped on Bastet one time, and Bastet went to scratch and realized it was her foot, and I watched her retract her claws and just, you know, kind of take it like, oh, that's mommy's foot. I don't want to hurt mommy like that. Like, they've been raised so sweet, but you have to be so gentle with them and all of that. And they're super, super well behaved. They don't scratch the vet. They don't scratch any of the groomers. If they go outside, they'll come in as soon as we call them. If we have to go somewhere, you know, it doesn't take us, you know, an hour to find them and hunt them down and bring them back in the house and all of that. They're really responsive to love.
Yeah.
And I noticed that with my niece as well. My niece, when she came over, she was talking about booty a lot. And she's like, there's the booty of that. And we walked into the Sphinx in the Luxor, and she goes, we're going in the booty. And I was like, you're 6 years old. That's not nice, okay?
Yeah.
I was like, are you going to promise your uncle that you're not going to talk about booties anymore? You're not going to use the word booty. I know that all your friends are doing it, but can you promise your uncle that? And she said, yeah, I promise. I said, okay. So she went to do it again, and she caught herself in front of me. And I was like, way to go, way to go. And then my sister called me up and she said, you know, she hasn't said booty ever since she made that promise to you. She's sticking to that promise.
That's...
And I was like, that's the way you do it. You just ask just very nicely, very understanding. She's so well behaved. So well behaved.
Yeah.
But I didn't tell her no on anything. So I don't know how she
Right.
reacts when you say no.
I don't think she gets upset, and the reason why I say that is because she's very good at being able to read the situation going on in any given moment, and also to point out. She points out things that people don't see about themselves, but that are obvious to people who are very intuitive. Like for instance, when we saw her and we were walking Fremont Street, I was walking on a cane, and she said, "Are you old?" Now,
Aw.
she's a baby. She's a kid. I'm not going to be mad at a kid for making a comment like that. In fact, I see it as an opportunity for me to take a really good look at myself and say, okay, well, I have to walk on a cane right now because of my back. But what if I, got a cane, that was a cool cane, like this one.
Well, you can walk with a gangster lean.
It's got an owl on it.
Oh.
And it's really cool. And with the things that I wear and stuff, I don't have to look old just because I walk on a cane. And I was starting to. I feel like I was starting to.
She was waving at all the showgirls, and there were a couple of dominatrixes there, and they were like, "Would you like to take a picture?" I'm like, "Yeah, I want to take a picture with dominatrixes with a 6-year-old." Okay?
Yeah,
I was like, "Come on,
that's so inappropriate."
Yeah. So I was covering her eyes in some
Yeah.
parts.
Yeah.
But no, she saw the showgirls and she's like, "They have feathers. Hi." And they're all
Yeah.
waving back at her and everything like that. It was cute.
She seems like the kind of kid that as long as you make a compromise with her that is reasonable, then she's even an unreasonable compromise. As long as it's a compromise and she feels like it's a compromise, then she'll do whatever you want and she'll be okay with you not giving her absolutely everything she wants.
Crystal said, "Why would you say no to her?" And as her uncle, I would never say no to her. But her mommy has to say no to her. That just comes with the territory. You got.
I would say yes, except if like when she comes to stay at our house and we're keeping her for several days at a time, we are going to have to say no to her at some point.
You can take that role. I'm the good uncle. I'm the party
You're
uncle.
the party
They even
uncle?
called me that. They said, you're the party uncle.
That's
I was like,
mean, though,
"Yeah,
to
no."
me. Because I want to be
She's gonna
the
be calling
party
me,
aunt.
"Uncle Chris, can you take me to this rave? Mommy won't take me."
So exactly, so the girls get to be the bad guy. Jerk.
Anyways,
No.
So moving on from that.
All right, moving on from that.
Growing up without support.
Everyone has bad childhood.
Yeah.
Everyone
yeah.
had a child.
So, going back to the idea of saying no to her, she asked, I asked her what she wanted to eat. And I went through several different things. I said, "Do you want Five Guys? Do you want pizza? Do you want this? Do you want that?" Trying to get her to eat stuff that's, a little bit better. She said, "I want chicken nuggets from McDonald's." What was I going to do but get her chicken nuggets from McDonald's? I gave in. So we went. And I was like, you know what? I might as well have a Big Mac. And like I said in the intro of the show, I ate it and I was really surprised.
Yeah.
It filled me up. It tasted completely different than what I remember. It didn't taste like it was chock full of preservatives or anything like that at all, period. Right. And I posted it on Facebook, and some people knee-jerk reaction, "Don't eat that crap, don't eat that crap, don't eat that crap." And I agree. Yeah. I'm not promoting that. I'm just saying that the world has changed over the last 10 years, and we haven't really been picking up on how the world has changed. But I came across this article because I was like, I need to prove this to myself. Why is it that I don't feel like garbage anymore after eating a Big Mac and French fries, which is something that I would probably do if we were on a road trip, but I wouldn't just voluntarily just go to McDonald's, So I looked it up, and sure enough, because of the public outcry, because of people like you out there, they were forced to change everything all up and down the line. And I was amazed at all the stuff they had changed. And I'm not saying that they're a great company or anything, not by any means, because they thought that it was okay to poison us. And they poisoned our generation. And it was only after we figured out that we were being poisoned that they finally changed. They thought at one point it was acceptable to poison the hell out of us.
Yeah.
But they changed a lot of stuff.
Right.
So the French fries used to be fried in beef tallow, and now they're no longer fried in that. The French fries don't have all the preservatives like they did 5 years ago, for example. They changed their apple pie. They did this, but there's a list here that blew my mind. I was like, are you serious? They stopped using the pink slime in their burgers. The pink slime was interesting because people were saying that that's what they make the chicken nuggets out of. And do you remember as kids, we used to get the chicken nuggets that were like dark meat and sometimes they had mussels in them. And, they tasted like garbage. I mean, they were, I don't know why we went to McDonald's all the time. I know why. It was because of the toy. I mean, so I'd be like, hey, I want a Happy Meal with a toy. And there was a point when I was doing carpet cleaning that's all I was eating, just simply because I was always on the road, and so I'd stop and I'd get McDonald's. And then I think that's what contributed to this, because it had all those preservatives and it had all those, everything like that gets stuck in the gut and it becomes a part of your tissue.
Right.
They actually removed all of that. But the pink slime stuff, what it is, it's a very thinly sliced meat that then they turn into hamburger patties. And then what they used to do is they used to take all the fries, they used to take all the burger patties, they used to take all of that and store them in a warehouse. So the burger that you would get was probably made and cooked 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 years ago and taken out of this warehouse. Well, in 2018, they actually made a change. They removed high fructose corn syrup from all of their buns. They have no preservatives in any of their foods anymore. The only preservatives that they have in their food is in the pickles. And they say, if you don't want artificial preservatives, just tell them to hold the pickles. The meat is actually fresh now, as opposed to the 2-year-old, 5-year-old stuff that was sitting in the warehouse. They get fresh meat and they cook it right there, just like Five Guys Burger does and many other places. And I think this was a shift because, number one, people were really, really upset about the amount of preservatives and stuff like that in their food. It started with the chicken nuggets. They go to Tyson now and they get the chicken nuggets from Tyson, and they're all like natural chicken nuggets. Well, not natural, but it's way more natural than they were before. But I was just like, when I started reading through this article, I was like, are you serious? I was like, wow, okay, so I don't feel as guilty as I did after taking her to McDonald's.
Right.
And it made me feel better that, okay, they're not getting the same crap that we used to get when we were growing up. They changed significantly. And then the whole idea of the fresh meat, I never would have thought. So, wow, kudos to McDonald's for doing that.
For doing this, yes.
But it just goes to show, a lot of people in those comments were like yelling at me. And I'm like, well, it's not going to kill me if I eat McDonald's once, okay? But then when I realized, all the changes they made, I was like, wow, I'm surprised. Now, I'd rather go to Five Guys. Five Guys, they actually get their potatoes above like the 42nd parallel or something like that. They're like really specific as to where they get their potatoes. They pride themselves on having no freezers because everything is completely and totally fresh. KFC also made major changes too to the factory farms. There was that show Super Size Me, that documentary, and then there was a second one. I don't remember what it's called, but it's a follow-up.
Super Size Me Now, I think, or something.
No. It was something completely different. But he did an expose on the factory farms and the chicken farms and how free-range chickens are actually not really free-range. And as a response, KFC, McDonald's, all of them completely changed. And I'm like, wow, it's incredible. And it's because, in my opinion, each and every one of you out there and people like us have been demanding this kind of change. But again, please don't think that I'm promoting any of this. I was just surprised to see this type of shift happening on a local level like this. What do you think?
I think it's great. I think the high fructose corn syrup and it is the most important, and the pink slime is, pink slime is okay as far as importance, but that high fructose corn syrup is the most important thing that they removed. And the reason why is because it is chock full of mercury. So much mercury that if you were to eat McDonald's every single day for years and years and years, at that point before they changed, you might very well have detectable levels of mercury in your body that were high enough to cause side effects. And so the high fructose corn syrup is one thing that I'm appalled that they put it in there in the first place, because it's terrible. But I'm glad that they removed it, and I'm shocked that they removed it. Actually,
I'm shocked too, because in order to sustain a restaurant like that, you've got to significantly raise prices. And there's a meme that's floating around that's saying, fries are 99 cents, fresh fruit $5.99. And I was
Right.
like, well, it's basic economics. Number one, 99-cent French fries, or that dollar Coca-Cola that they do. That's a marketing strategy. The French fries, especially, they're losing money on that. But the reason they do that is because that's an offer to get people in the door. And you go in for the 99-cent French fries and you walk out with several other items.
Yeah.
And that's what they're aiming for. So they sell those at cost or below cost.
Right.
But to maintain organic, fresh fruit, it takes a lot more, because you have to maintain a certain level of quality. And
Right.
that quality, if it's not delivered, it has to be thrown out. And so you have a constant supply chain that's, having to move or be, and you have a lot more of it that's going to waste as a result, because it just goes bad so quickly.
yeah.
I would say the biggest problem, in my opinion, is that people worry more about what goes onto their body than what goes into their body.
Oh wow, that's good. I like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna
and we have
save that.
people need to rethink that, in my humble opinion. Not saying you guys and gals out there. I'm just saying, on a whole, people should think, it's more important what goes into my body than what I'm wearing on my body. I look pretty dope, in my opinion. I get compliments all the time. When you add up everything I'm wearing, it comes out to less than $50. I just know how to find stuff that looks freaking dope, but also is cost efficient as well. You can look like $1 million without spending $1 million. But I'm much more conscious about what goes into my body, and quality of stuff that goes into my body as well. And it's something that I just adapted a while ago. But I went on a journey. Do you want to chime in on this? Or, I was going to get into another semi-related topic.
Go ahead and get into another semi-related topic, because I think I'm done with that topic.
Okay. So I started to become more conscious about what I put into my body after I gained a little bit of weight after doing the carpet cleaning, and I was probably breathing in a lot of really dangerous chemicals at the time too, which I think contributed a lot to some of the issues I was experiencing. But I started to become more conscious when I hired a personal trainer, and I hired her. She taught me how to eat better. She taught me about simple carbs versus complex carbs, and how you want to have some complex carbs. And if you're craving sugar, for example, if you eat like a sweet potato or green beans or something like that, you're craving carbs. But we always turn to sugars, we turn to breads, we turn to things like that. But if you eat a sweet potato, which we have an air fryer now, so I can make sweet potato air French fries. Oh. And they're actually really good. I mean, they don't taste like French fries, they're not quite there, and especially when it's air fried.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a sweet potato.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I find some ketchup that has no calories in it, and they have this ketchup. It doesn't really taste like ketchup though, but it's got 0 calories, and it's all natural. And I'll use that, and it's like I'm eating healthy, but I'm also having the benefits of air fried chicken too. I love air fried chicken as well.
Yeah, air fried chicken's good.
The air fryer, oh my God, I love it. But anyways, my personal trainer was teaching me all these different things. And then I started watching online bodybuilders, and they would do meal prep. And they would do all their meals for an entire week. And of course, I got rear-ended by a drunk driver, so I had to stop working out for a little bit because of that. I'm finally at a point where I can start getting back into it and pushing it harder. But my doctor was like, dude, you're going to hurt yourself. And my doctor's like this really big, swole dude. And so the guy that's treating me for the car accident. And so, we talk about workout, and we talk about stuff like that. And he's really, impressed that I know so much. And I'm like, yeah, I know so much. I just can't apply it right now because of these injuries. But I started watching all these bodybuilders, and all these bodybuilders would make these really healthy meals, put them in Tupperware containers, and put them in the refrigerator. And then they would take them out and they would heat them up in the microwave. And I was leaving comments going, what the hell? You're going to make all this really good food and then you're going to stick it in the microwave? What's wrong with you?
You're nuking it.
You're nuking it. Exactly. Then I found out the truth about the microwave.
Yep.
And I had to rethink that reality, because I was looking at people who I wanted to emulate. People who, like, bodybuilders, I want to look like that. Obviously, I don't look like that. And even my doctor's like, dude, does your dad have a belly like that? And I'm like, yeah, he's been working out for 20 years, 30 years. He's like, that's just your body type, dude. And I'm like,
Right.
no, this is not fair.
Hey,
I'm like, it's not fair. But
Chris,
you
baby,
Uh-huh.
twin, look at my body.
Mhm.
It's not fair.
Yeah, but you have nice curves, though.
Yeah, but
I don't have nice curves. I just have curves.
I waste so much time like on this. I don't like it. I wish I had a different body so that I, didn't have all that.
Okay, so
So-
let me get back to the microwave real quick.
All right, the microwave.
So I started looking into a little bit of the science behind the microwave, and I realized that heating up your food in the microwave is actually healthier than steaming it. This blew my mind. I couldn't comprehend. I was like, this is insane. And it's not the microwave that's the problem. It's microwaved food that is the problem. And so all the articles that I was finding that were saying how bad microwaves are, we're talking about microwave food, because microwave foods are chock full of preservatives, all this stuff, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you take broccoli, for example, and you heat up broccoli. What the microwave does is just heats up food. That's what radiate means. It means to heat up. So the longer that you heat the food and
Oops, sorry. I'm sorry.
oh, it's okay. The longer you heat the food and the higher temperatures, the more nutrients are being sucked out of that food. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Do we need to take a break?
In a few minutes, but
Okay.
I'm okay right now.
Do you have ants in your pants?
No, I'm wearing a pair of pants that I don't usually wear, and so I'm going to change back into the pants that
Oh, okay.
work for me in a few
Well, I'm
minutes.
sure people would like to see that, so go right ahead.
But I found the article that you were talking about where the microwaves are really not that bad for you. It's the plastic containers that you're putting them in. It's the things like that. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, if you want to go into that, feel free to get into that. But my point, let me just finish my point real quick.
Please.
So, so you cook the food longer in a higher amount of heat, the nutrients are being sucked out of it. So broccoli, 12, 15 minutes steamed, you throw it in the microwave and you're only putting it in for 2 minutes tops, if that. It's actually preserving more of the nutrients. I was blown away by this. I didn't have a microwave for several years, and these guys that look great have microwaves and they're cooking all their food in microwaves, and I'm like, this doesn't make sense. So I checked with a couple of people that I know. Brooks Agnew, for example, he's a scientist, and he's like, yeah. He's like, no, that whole microwave thing, that's just it depends what you put in it. You don't want to eat microwave food that's specifically meant for a microwave, but if you want to heat something up in a microwave, it's no big deal. And then I found out that through the life cycle of a microwave, it emits about as much radiation as an X-ray does. Yeah. So there's a difference between nuclear radiation and microwave radiation. Blew my mind, changed my paradigm, changed my reality right then and there.
With the exception of things like, there's a few vegetables out there that if you cook them too long, yes, it will get rid of some of the antioxidants like in broccoli. But aside from that, cooking times are generally so short that it doesn't have the chance to do that. And so it's a mischaracterization of what microwave ovens do to say that it's nuking the food or that it's sucking all the nutrients out, because it doesn't suck all the nutrients out. What it does is it just heats it up. And then if you do it too long, then it gets rid of some of the antioxidants. But guess what? They did a study comparing the antioxidant loss in microwave cooking versus the antioxidant loss in grilling, like on a grill. And they said, oh yeah, you lose almost all the antioxidants when you grill broccoli, and things like that, because you're burning it. And so by burning it, you're not just, destroying the antioxidants, because it's the same process as the cooking the microwave.
And who would have thought?
Yeah.
I would have thought this.
It's not just doing that. It's creating carcinogenic compounds.
Mm-hmm.
Because anytime you grill anything, oh, thank you, it's going to cause carcinogenic compounds to be emitted from that food. And so it's better to microwave
Can I
than
get you to
that.
do something real
Yes.
quick? Because hold on. Let me tell you what to do. Because I've noticed this on a couple different shows. You see where the camera is? move your screen over to wherever it is that you're looking at on the screen. Your reference monitor, not your computer screen.
Oh, okay. Reference monitor. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what I was
so
doing.
move that over and have that underneath the.
I've got segment on top of it.
Oh, okay. Well, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It
Well, I
just
already
looks like
moved
you're
it.
looking away from
Yeah.
the camera instead of at the camera.
It
How
doesn't
about we
move.
do it during break?
Okay, we'll do it during the
Okay.
break. That sounds good.
All right. So keep going, please.
Let me move over a little bit.
No. You're going to tear the whole studio
Okay.
down.
Yeah, it's come here, segment. Poor baby. So one study on 20 different vegetables noted that microwaving and baking preserved antioxidants the best, while pressure cooking and boiling did the worst. However, one study found that just 1 minute of microwaving destroyed some of the cancer-fighting compounds in garlic, while this took 45 minutes in a conventional oven. So, it's the comparisons are generally the same.
Now, I
No
do
matter which way
recommend
you cook.
everybody grills their food. Like Danny said, it tastes much better when it's
It
grilled.
tastes
no
a lot
doubt
better
about
when
it.
it's grilled.
Yeah.
It does taste a lot
But
better.
what I'm talking about is like meal prep, bodybuilder, working out kind of
Yeah.
stuff, and you don't have time to cook, really healthy 4 times a day the way the bodybuilders eat. I don't eat like that. I eat once a day, tops, if that. And then in the middle of the night, I might get into Cherie's little secret sugar
Secret
stash, which I gotta stop doing.
Yeah, but
It goes to show, in my opinion, that we've had things a little bit confused, and it was all well intended, and we wanted to follow the truth or path, and all of that, but a lot of it is backwards, and a lot of it doesn't pan out. I speculate, and this is the point that I'm getting to, and I've got several more examples to go through, but I speculate that the reason for this is that they wanted to pile on a bunch of bullshit on top of the real truths that are out there. So they have several different layers of stuff they can debunk and then call everybody a conspiracy theorist. And debunking it, with things that are very, very, very obvious. I know that you said that you need to take a break.
I'd like to fix the cameras too.
Your camera looks great. You look beautiful on it. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would. Well, I think I'm okay. We can keep going.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. So one of the other
White
things that
House's National Climate Advisor Gina McCarthy responded on Sunday to claims made.
Sorry, I think audio came up. So one of the other things that I came across, and this is a very interesting or a very famous. See, she moved my camera.
Thank you.
Shame,
She
shame,
does
shame,
that to
shame,
me
shame.
every time.
All right.
I need to check my cameras more.
Okay. So this quote right here. No one will enter the New World Order unless he or she make a pledge to worship Lucifer. No one will enter the New Age unless he will take a Luciferian initiation. David Spangler, Director of Planetary Initiative, United Nations. This was circulating around for many, 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 many years. And I got to the truth of the matter. David Spangler is some guy that has some kind of little group that he does. The quote doesn't say anything about Luciferian initiation or anything like that. It was loosely taken from a book that he was writing. And another one that was taken, and actually somebody brought this up in another show when I was talking about Masonry, is Don't the Masons Worship Lucifer? And if you read Morals and Dogma, Albert Pike mentions Lucifer one time, and he says something to the effect of, like the others see Lucifer as the morning star, other cultures see it as wisdom, other cultures see it as the light bearer, so on and so forth. He was just making references to Lucifer in regard to other cultures and the way that other traditions look at Lucifer and comparing it to Christianity. He never says that the Masons worship Lucifer. The Masons, in my humble opinion, are completely and totally 100% Yahweh, and that's very, very, very clear by their rituals. And like I said, you can go to Duncan's Masonic ritual, which, you know, it might be worth going over on the show sometime and going through the rituals word for word.
It absolutely would.
Yeah, we might do that. But my point is, I want to get to the truth of everything. David Spangler, some guy with some little organization, this quote didn't actually happen. There is no such thing as planetary initiative for the United Nations. There's never been, and you can't find any of it at all. What happened is that David Spangler got some of his brochures for his little organization printed up by the same company that printed up some brochures for the United Nations as well. So they made the ties into the two with that. Like, see, he's tied to the United Nations because he used the same company to print the brochures that the United Nations happened to use also to print some brochures. It's like saying that I'm tied into, I don't know, I'm looking around somewhere else, that I'm tied by, I'm tied to Naked E-Juice because I smoke E-Juice, and so I must be a part of them. You know, it's so loose, the connection is so loose, and the quote doesn't even exist. So it made me see things from a whole new perspective as far as that goes, because the United Nations Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, which is called now, is something very real and something that we have to contend with. But in my opinion, it's important to understand who our adversaries are and who it is that it's trying to push this new world order and one world religion, even though I don't really see anything in their white papers about a one world religion. That seems to be something that comes out of the John Birch Society and a lot of the pro-Christian, right-wing conspiracy theories. I hate using all these buzzwords, but, you know, because the problem is they've confused the language, just like Yahweh confused the language at the Tower of Babel. They're doing the exact same thing now and confusing the language to where we can't communicate what we really mean because there's so many different meanings to the language, to the words that we use right now. So the language has been very confusing. But in my humble opinion, these people are not Luciferian. If you look at Luciferian principles are living in harmony with the earth, not harming another living creature. It even says don't harm children, which is something the Bible doesn't say, and it just goes on and on and on like that. And then you can actually look at Satanism as well, and if you actually read the Satanic Bible, it goes along the same kind of tenets, you know, don't harm anybody unless they harm you, don't harm children, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's about living free and being sovereign, which is all these principles that the Christians want to bring in and say that, you know, hey, this is what we're all about. But at the same time, they want to say, no, well, King Jesus is coming over here to rule. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm not really into monarchy.
Yeah, that's
you
not
know,
gonna work
you
for
can
me.
leave the monarchy out, you know.
Yeah.
Constitutional republic is pretty much where I draw the line, just out of necessity. I'd rather be more anarchist. But I understand some people need to be governed, so I'll give you your constitutional republic. But I'm not going to go down the lines of monarchy, even if it's a divine monarchy by Jesus Christ, etc., etc. But my point of saying all this is that they're not Luciferian. They're really, in my humble opinion, Yahweh worshipers, because Yahweh is all about child sacrifice, all about animal sacrifice, all about wars and rumors of wars, and go to your neighbor's village and rape and pillage and so on and so forth. And no offense to any Christians out there. I'm not trying to offend anybody on an individual level. And please understand that my issue is not with Christians on an individual level. It's with religion as a whole, and more important, theocracy, because horrible things have been committed on the guise of religion, under the guise of religion.
Yeah.
Right now, they're still stoning people in Saudi Arabia. They're still crucifying people in Saudi Arabia. LGBT people that don't think the way that they do. People like us who think in different ways. They would call us magicians and witches and astrologers and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And so it's the same thing, just repeated in a couple different ways. And so that's why I'm like, hey, I don't care what you do at home. I've always said religion is like a penis. It's okay to have one. It's okay to take it out and play with it when you're at home, but you don't want to take it out in public, and you don't want to put it in people's faces without their consent. I think that's fair.
It's extremely fair.
But they don't seem to have that same respect. That's where the problem comes in my opinion.
That lack of respect comes from the fact that they don't have that internal dialogue like we do that tells them, hey, don't do that. That's messed up. Hey, don't do that. That's going to hurt somebody
and it
else.
allows a justification for harming others as well. And for being rude people.
Yeah,
like, that guy that
being
came into the
awful.
chat. I know who that guy is.
Yeah, me
That's
too.
the guy that's been trolling us for the last 5 years. He's got like 15 different accounts.
Yeah.
You see about 12 to 15 thumbs down on every one of our
On every
videos.
show.
Because he uses all his fake accounts
That's
to thumb
him.
down as soon as we go live. And he has left comments in some of our videos. There was one video in particular, and it was a bunch of different comments. And Google had a glitch, or YouTube had a glitch. And you know how you have one account, and then you can create sub-accounts under those? It posted all of them under the top account and revealed that it was all coming from the main account. And it was just him, just over and over and over and over again. But it's like, why do you feel the need to do that? This is the virus that I'm talking about, and this is why I have such a problem with it. So please don't take it personally, anybody out there who is Christian. I'm not trying to step on your belief system, but I am pointing out that things seem backwards, and what seems to be, and Isaiah 5:12. Oh, Isaiah 5:20 actually.
Isaiah 5:20.
What is Isaiah 5:20?
I don't know.
You don't know the Bible?
You know what?
They say that
this is what
that
I mean
Lucifer
by
knows
I don't
the
think about
Bible
it.
better than Jesus does.
This is what I mean by I don't think about it. This
says,
is like
woe unto those who call.
woe unto those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness,
Yeah.
who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter.
So they're giving you the warning there.
Yeah.
At the very beginning, too.
Yeah.
They're like, all right, warning. Woe unto those they call good evil and evil good. Now let's get into it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, you signed the waiver.
You signed the waiver.
Well,
You've
all right,
signed the
let's-
terms and conditions.
Uh-huh.
All right, now let's go ahead and
Ready to do
jab
this?
you with this,
Uh-huh.
and no liability.
Zero.
So-
Zero.
Another one of these interesting things that I had to rethink for myself comes in with. I know I have it on my screen here. Do you need to go take a break, sweetie? I see you squirming around with ants in your pants.
I'm just rubbing my back.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, if I could take a minute, just
Yeah,
one
yeah.
sec.
Yeah.
Maybe if you could-
Well, I can get into this real quick, and then
Yeah.
we can completely change the subject because I think this is the last example that I
Okay.
have that I wanted to go over.
Okay, cool.
So Nestle CEO, some of you may have heard me talk about this before. Water is not a human right. And the guy looks pretty fucking evil, doesn't he? He looks like somebody that needs to be taken out to the street and
Oh,
hung.
yeah.
Bill Burr, the comedian, was actually doing an interview, and he's like, "You hear about this Nestle CEO guy saying water shouldn't be a human right? What a piece of shit." Bill Burr was also the same guy who was getting on and doing an interview with one of the late night talk show host people, and they were asking him, "Are you going to take a vacation?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to take a vacation." He's like, "I'm totally into the conspiracies. I totally am. But it doesn't make sense. Why would they want to give vacations then kill off all the sheep? They would want to kill off all the free-thinking people. So yes, I took my vacation." And I'm like, I understand that logic. I just don't think it applies here properly. And I think that you might be pushing some kind of BS. But to each his own. If you want to take a vacation, I urge you take a vacation. If you don't, you don't. That's where I come from, is the choice. Water is not a human right. What does that mean to you?
It means
No, what does it mean to you without knowing? You already know.
Yeah.
But what does it mean to you?
if I didn't know, I would think, oh my gosh, what a horrible, horrible person. This guy is he wants that reality. What's that water-based reality, that dystopic movie?
Waterworld.
Is it Waterworld? But no, it's not Waterworld. It's another one where there's no water and they like suck
Dune.
water. Yeah, Dune.
Because they live on Arrakis.
Exactly.
And there's no water on Arrakis.
Right. It's like this guy's like the Arrakis dictator. He's going to take all the water and not give it to people that need it, especially in poor countries. Oh my God. But
Okay.
what's the reality?
So the reality is that, well, first of all, let me tell you how I came to this conclusion. This is just a meme with just a quote. And if there's anything that I've learned is that don't trust the quotes that I see. Do a little bit more investigation on them if I'm going to take it to heart. If I don't care about it, no need to do any investigation on it. Because I don't care about it. But contrary to what New York Times was saying, which is don't go down the rabbit hole and don't think too much, I have always taken a stance of if it's important enough to me to understand as a truth, then I need to get to the bottom of the situation. So they showed a clip where he's talking and there's a subtitle because he's speaking in Swiss or something like that. And it says water is not a human right, and they cut him off right there. And I thought, that's very strange to cut him off mid-sentence like that. So let's see what's really going on. So what happened is that India was having a water crisis with their water table, and it was depleting. And what India had done is they had declared water to be a human right, meaning that you can go and use up as much as you want without paying for it. And what happened is big corporations were going over there and taking all the water. Farmers were also using up all the water, which was leaving no water for the poor people. So what he was saying, and again, I'm not defending the Nestle CEO or anything, I'm just speaking the truth on the matter. What he was saying is that water should not be deemed a human right the way that India has deemed it a human right, and large corporations and farmers should be paying for their use. He was suggesting that India implements a water bill the way that every other country has a water bill. Right. If you use a ton of water, you've got to pay for it so it can be replenished. If you're using very little water, then you pay for the very little water that you're using. Now, right. He's the CEO of Nestle, or was a former CEO of Nestle, so you would imagine that somebody like him would want India to have water labeled as a human right, because that means he can move his manufacturing plant over there and get all his basic water for free, right? But that's not the case. He was actually saying that companies should pay for their water usage because it's affecting the poor people.
Which is literally the opposite of what the meme.
Opposite of the meme.
Yeah, of what the meme intends the viewer to come to the conclusion of. And so this is just one example.
This sounds like propaganda from Coca-Cola.
This is like
and PepsiCo.
I don't
for
think
Dasani.
Yeah,
Aquafina,
for Dasani, Aquafina.
Like
no,
don't buy Nestle. Buy Aquafina and Dasani, which is nothing more than city water, which has been with reverse osmosis.
I don't think it was Dasani makers or anything like that. I think what it is people that are very into the conspiracy stuff, but don't have a good grasp of their own intuition as well as their own judgment. If they have poor judgment, or if they're a little weak-minded because of not letting go of some of those boulders in their life that we talked about in the first minutes of the show, they will be prone to believing things without looking too heavily into it. And it's a biased kind of thing where if you're just confirming your own bias, but it makes people feel better to spread things like that around, because if you see a meme that you think is valid and you think is talking about something that means a lot to you, you're going to share that meme sometimes without even looking into whether or not this is true. And
yeah,
so you've got to guard against that.
One example, I wish I could find the picture, but it was these girls, and they were all wearing chains, and they were wearing black. And the caption said, and this was around 2009, 2010, Muslim child brides being chained and sent off to meet their husbands. As it turns out, what that was, it was the ritual of Ashira, and it was commemorating the martyrs who had fallen, and they do like a passion play. And so it'd be the same as taking a passion play here, where you see a man on a cross and saying, "Look, they're crucifying people in the United States." There were a couple of other ones too. There was one with a Muslim guy, and he's got a girl on his lap, and she's dressed in like a First Communion type dress, which can be mistaken as like a bridal thing, right? And the caption said, child brides in Muslim countries, etc. I did a reverse Google image search on it, and the first 20 or 30 results were the same thing being repeated. Then I finally got to the Twitter account, which had actually posted the picture. And it was the guy, he's the uncle of the young girl, and it was like a quinceañera type of party that they do in Muslim culture.
Yeah.
And that was her uncle, and they were having a party for her. It's
Right.
like a First Communion, quinceañera, I don't know. It was Arabic, so I translated it a little bit. But he's like, I'm so proud of my niece, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that was the originating photo. And so they took it and they recaptioned it to fit the agenda that they were trying to push.
Well, to fit the narrative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
because-
don't get me wrong. I'm not defending Islam. I am completely against Islam, just like I am every other religion. They're committing atrocities over there.
Right.
They're crucifying people. They're stoning women in the street. They're doing all of that. They do have child brides. They do have all of that. So I'm not taking that off the table. All I'm saying is that this particular picture that was circulating was not true. And there was more and more and more of those. But if I can finish this point really quick,
Yeah, please
and then
do.
I'll give you the floor. I think the purpose for that was, because this was all 2010 to 2016, was to create enough BS so they can bring in their fact checkers. And I was telling people, guys, check your sources, check
Yeah,
your
don't
sources,
just
check your
share.
sources. And they wouldn't. And they would just share them. And I was really, really, really disappointed to see this. It happened to somebody that I know. I can't say it's a good friend. I talked to him a few times. Pete Santilli. Pete Santilli was caught up in that whole situation where they took over. Do you remember? It was BLM, but not Black Lives Matter. It was Bureau of Land Management.
Right.
They took over some kind of little guard shack.
Yeah. It was just,
And they had this big thing over there, and Pete Santilli was arrested.
Right.
He did 2 years in jail. He was arrested for two things. Number one, there was another BLM situation, Bureau of Land Management, with those farmers. I forget the farmers' names. I don't remember.
I don't know their names
Yeah, I don't
yet.
remember.
I don't
who they were.
remember. Yeah.
But anyways, this was a second situation where Lavoy Finicum was shot, and so they had all had this whole, gathering over there and protest around this little BLM guard shack that they had taken over. And Pete goes up to the police lines because he was there, first of all, covering the event, and he had live cameras set up all over the place. And they were live streaming from the event, and he was bringing people firsthand coverage of the event. He managed to get out of there before the feds came in. Then he went back to the police lines, and he was talking to the feds, and he got all this on footage.
Right.
And he's talking to the feds, and he's like, "Look, please don't go in there. Don't turn this into another Waco. There's women and children in there. Let me go in there. Let me talk to them. I can get them to come out peacefully, okay? Give me an opportunity to go in. I don't want to see any children or any women hurt in this situation, okay? Nobody's going to start violence. Let me go in there and let me start getting people out."
Yeah.
And they refused. What they did is they arrested him. And he spent 2 years in jail as a result. During those 2 years in jail, people were circulating stories about him. And they were saying that he was an FBI informant and all kinds of stuff like that. Because what happened is the FBI used part of his live stream footage as evidence against a couple of the people that they arrested in that situation. Well, he was live streaming the event, and these people were talking too close to the live streaming cameras that were set up in public. They had musicians there playing, they had people giving speeches, and that's why he was live streaming all of this. But the headline just read, Pete Santilli footage used to indict so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. You read the actual FBI indictment, and it said that it was taken from the live stream footage that was set up there for YouTube. So these people were literally, I watched the live stream footage and they walked close to the camera. They started talking. They're like, oh, wait, there's a camera
There's
there.
a camera.
Walk away.
Yeah.
But the way they were framing it was that he had set up these hidden cameras and we're getting all these people on recordings and all kinds of stuff like that. So he was on TFR for a very brief period of time. I've known of him for quite some time. I've only spoken to him about 3 or 4 times. But when I saw people circulating that article, I was like, hey, this is wrong. This is one of us. Somebody who's out there trying to bring truth to people. Somebody out there putting his neck on the line, live streaming, and then they're calling him an FBI informant and a rat and this and that, et cetera, et cetera. And the guy does
Right.
2 freaking years in jail
Right.
over this. And meanwhile, people are taking the opportunity to kick him while he's down. And it was at that point that I was like, all right. I think I did a video disavowing the truth movement back then. It was like 2015, something like that.
2016.
2016,
maybe. Early
yeah.
2016.
Yeah, around that time.
Yeah.
And it was because that was it wasn't just because of that, but that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And I was like, okay, I'm going out on my own. No movements, no truth movement, no new age movement, no nothing like that. I'm just going to find my own truth, and that's it. And I remember saying, if that was us, nobody stepped in to help him. Nobody's going to step in to help us either. And people are going to take the opportunity to kick people where they're down.
Right.
And these were truther people. This was another host on the station. And he left the station on his own, which was good. But then he asked to come back on the station. And I said, no, dude, no. And I just never really brought it up to him as to why. But it was because he was circulating that bullshit and knowing that it was bullshit. Because I
Right.
told him, I said, did you read the FBI document on this?
Right.
It's linked up to the article that you're circulating. So it's not
literally
like the FBI document is something you have to go dig up.
Right.
It was a brief article, and then you click, and it takes you to the FBI document. Did you read the FBI document? Yeah, but Pete Santilli's a piece of shit and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, all right. This is agenda driven here. This is agenda. There was another person who was circulating something, and I was like, hey, that's not true. And he goes, it doesn't matter. It's the spirit of it that counts. And I was like, dude, that's not how this works.
That's not how any of this works.
No.
Okay.
It has to be the truth.
It has
If
to.
not, it's a lie.
Right.
Even if it's the spirit of it that makes it true. That's just...
I would have told him, I'm going to have the spirit of somebody who's being lied to. How about that?
Yes, we got a donation from Cyrus.
Thank
33.
you, Cyrus. 33.
Thank you, Cyrus.
Thank you so much.
Cyrus. So I had to rethink my reality.
Yeah.
As far as that goes.
Yeah. It's one of those things that, and I'm glad we're doing this show because rethinking reality is hard for people to do, generally. And it's even harder in times like these. Can we take a quick...
We can take as long of a break as you want.
3 minutes?
Just 3 minutes? Are you sure you just need 3 minutes?
3 to 5 minutes.
All right.
Okay.
Do
Do you have anything that we can play?
I'm looking. I mean, I feel like I've played... We have a new... I don't know, these Remix Bros stuff, we've played so much of them, but I know that they allow us to use it. I always try to find something interesting to play. I guess this one we haven't played in a while. So, can you push your monitor back just a little bit if possible?
Yes, I'm sorry.
No, it's
Yeah,
okay.
I didn't realize. Here we go.
No, it's okay. Just leave it like that.
Okay.
It'll be fine. I'll adjust the next show.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Nope, it's okay.
All right.
All right. So, what should we get into? We could take some calls. We can talk about dreams. I would be interested to hear some strange dreams that people are having, but I don't know how you're feeling, if you're feeling up to taking calls, or we can do a whole nother show about dreams and weird dreams that people are having, because I think I've been having some strange dreams. I think a lot of people have as well.
A lot of people are.
I'd like to hear...
I would like to hear that too. I think we should do at least an hour, if not 2, right now, taking calls and hearing people's dreams, because you've been having really, really deep dreams. And what I mean by deep is that there's a lot of symbolism packed in these dreams, and we're unpacking the symbolism. It seems like like kids on Christmas morning. Every morning I ask you, what did you dream about last night? And he tells me, and it's just this fountain of information. So I think if we all put our heads together, we could really uncover a lot of gnosis that
Okay.
is lying, just under the surface.
So 612-398-0600 if you want to call in and share some of your visions with us. We would love to hear them. Put our heads together, see what's going on in this matrix reset process.
Absolutely.
I had some interesting revelations last night, and I need to go into the DMT realm and maybe even a different type of realm too, one that John Lilly used too. I managed to find some people here in Vegas that they got the hookup. No, it's actually like a legitimate ketamine clinic. And it's a little pricey, but they do IV ketamine injections, and I found a doctor that is willing to take me as deep as I want to go for as long as I want to go. And completely different, done through IV instead of any other type of way. And so I think I can get some really interesting ideas there. I also figured out how to pass my codes over to some people on the other side without actually leaving the matrix, and I found a loophole that I think I can utilize. I just don't know if it's safe to utilize that because these codes are very sacred and they can't go to the wrong frequency, but I can infuse them in a frequency that can only be opened by another frequency that's out on the other side. So I don't know. I mean, I've had all these things just kicking around in my head, trying to figure out what's the next step in this matrix reset process. This is probably our Patreon exclusive section.
Right.
So, if you're watching up to this point, go to patreon.com/btvtribe and check out the rest of the show. And if you're watching live, let's get into the rest of the show. It sounds like you know what to do, but it sounds like, just from my own experience, and I have the same problem. Sometimes
Should I be like Hunter S. Thompson?
Like Hunter S. Thompson? There you go. Yeah, come on down to Las
Should I
Vegas.
just be like him?
But what I was going to say is it sounds like you're standing in your own way. And I've done this. I've done this, as a matter of fact, if you don't mind me going off on this tangent real quick, I found myself doing this with iAlife. iAlife.com is our CBD oil, and there are so many things that I want to do with iAlife, but it's like so many different things that I'm like, get paralyzed, and I'm like, I don't know which direction to go. This formula is working great. I want to create more products. I want to do more marketing. I want to do this. I want to do that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But when it comes down to it, I just cannot decide on what I want to do, and I'm thinking to myself, I need to find a good marketing guy to get this out to more people because it's working so well for people. It's 99% pure CBD, 500 milligrams of pure CBD, and of course we have our coupon code btvtribe.com, which we have been able to extend for the next couple days too. So go add 246810 to your cart, and at checkout do BTV Tribe, and you'll get buy one get one free. And I'll show you the process real quick. So you just go here, BTV BTV Tribe, and we've got amazing testimonials, but you get 1,000 milligram between the two bottles for $59 with free shipping in the United States. So take advantage of that coupon code. Reason I diverted off into that, and we'll get right back to the caller, is because I too know what it's like to just be paralyzed with so many options in front of you. What you have to do is just break down all of that and say, I'm going to do something, and start walking that path. And it sounds like you're way past due to start walking that path. So start walking that path. You already know you love animals, you love horses, you love all of that. It sounds like you have a connection with somebody that has horses that could potentially open up an opportunity. Then what happens is you get a little bit of experience with them, and then you can take that somewhere else and apply that as a zoologist or as a vet tech, or even somewhere where you work with horses. And what I found, it's not about how much money you make. It's about how happy you are. And also, it's about helping people. So, when I came up with iAlife, for example, I didn't go into the realm asking, how do I make money? I went into the realm asking, how do I help people? And I got the iAlife recipe out of there. So that's the question. How can you help people? And it sounds like, in your case, maybe it's, how can I help animals? And doors will open for you like that. What do you think about that?
I think, yeah, like,
But anyways, thank you so much. This has been such an elevating and uplifting conversation that I've had with each and every one of you. I'm looking forward to doing it again very soon. We are going now into 5 hours and 37 minutes. So if you're watching the Patreon, you have missed a ton of great calls, great knowledge. We'll keep it up on YouTube for a couple days, but of course we want to offer exclusivity to our Patreons at patreon.com/BTV Tribe. Thank you so much to everybody that sent the super chats. Thank you to everybody who called in. Thank you to everybody who's been hanging out in the chat room. G-Hog is in the house, of course. Notorious Neil, Evil Genius, Ria, Carmen, Curvia, Nancy. The list goes on and on and on and on. Thank you, guys and gals. I have a Chicago deep dish waiting for me downstairs, and I've been up since 4 o'clock in the morning now, 12 hours. And I think last time I ate was about 24 hours ago. So kiss the one you love right now. You never know the last time is going to be. And we will see you even further beyond the veil. Love ya.
Woo!